How to use PC-Gentec-EO? Here we go. Hey, what's up everyone? It's your boy Kévin Foster from Gentec-EO, your partner for accuracy, as you well know by now. Today's video is going to be quite simple. We're going to take a look at the PC-Gentec-EO software, which you can find for free on our website. There's no license for it. As you know, it's compatible with most of our products, so we're just going to take a look at how it works and how to use it. Alright, so this is how it looks like when you open PC-Gentec-EO the first time. So the very first thing you got to do in general is connect to the detector. Click right here, Integra is right there. I can connect to it. The detector I'm using, by the way, right now is a thermal power detector, a very basic one. It's an Integra detector, so it's a USB detector. And so that's it, I'm connected to the detector. In general, most of the default settings of the detector are in fact what you would generally use, okay? But there's one thing you got to change for sure before you go any further. It's the wavelength. So the wavelength can be changed right here at the top. Of course, change it to the wavelength of your laser. So that's the first thing you would do. So for example, if I have a, I don't know, 800 nanometer laser, I would change it just like that. And it's applied right away. The correction factor for this wavelength is applied right away. Now, the second thing you got to do in general, which is very important, is the zero of the measurement. As you can see, it's already quite close to zero. I don't have a laser right now, so that's why the measurement is so low. But still, you should always do the zero before you make any measurement. So to do a zero, it's quite simple. You wait until the detector is stabilized, which is the case right here. You know, it's pretty much close to zero. You would turn off the laser, which is already the case for me. I don't have a laser, I have to say. And you just press zero, just like that. It takes a few seconds. And there we go. Now, like I said, most of these settings is not something you would change, but you know, let's still go over them to show you. So under the wavelength, you have the range. The range is basically, you know, the scale. I will say that in general, you want to keep it on automatic. Most people don't actually need to select a specific range. I guess that would really depend on what you're trying to do. But in most cases, auto would be perfectly fine. Here we have the measurement mode. And in the case of a thermal power detector, I can measure power, of course, but I also have the single shot energy mode. There's also moving average. Moving average is basically a mod where it takes the average of the measurement over a certain period of time. I'm going to show you afterwards. And then we have irradiance. Irradiance, when you click on that, it will ask you what is the size of your beam. And now the measurement is going to be a watts per centimeter square measurements, which is what irradiance is. So just to show you moving average real quick, I'm going to activate it. And as you can see now, I can select the moving average period. Right now we're seeing the measurement average of the last 10 seconds. But you know, if I want it to be 2 seconds, I guess, just like that, I can change it to 2 seconds. This is now the average of the last 2 seconds. Finally, we have corrections right here. So corrections, you can apply a multiplier or an offset. You know, if I apply a multiplier, let's have some fun, I guess 100. As you can see now, the measurement is 100 times higher. Offset is it's a plus or minus on the measurement. So if I want to cheat and I want to have 100 watts just like that, I can do it like that. You see now I have 100 watts. So I would say, well, first off, offset is something that is not generally, I don't think you will use it that much, let's put it that way. Multiplier can be pretty useful because, for example, if you use an attenuator or something like that, you know, let's say you have an attenuator with 25% transmission, then it means that, you know, the actual power before the attenuation would be 4 times higher. So that's why you could compensate for the attenuator by applying a multiplier of 4, you know, in that example with 25% transmission. So, but I would say that, you know, if you're not doing that, generally you don't need to use a multiplier. And by the way, a question we get often is that when you change the wavelength, the correction factor is applied by doing that. You know, you don't need to apply another multiplier to compensate for the wavelength. This is already taken care of by changing the wavelength. So the multiplier, like I said, it's really if you're doing something else that specifically requires it. And then trigger level, this is for energy detectors. This does not apply to power detectors like what I have right now. So we're going to see that a little bit later. So now what I can show you is the second tab called display. This one is going to be pretty quick. You can change the font size right here with big scary numbers like this, and you can also set the number of digits after the the decimal. So you can change it like that. You can add even more numbers. Now this is a little bit too big. Now let's move to the acquisition tab. This is the tab where if you want to log data, create a log file, this is where it's going to go down. So the first step I would say is that you need to choose a file name. So you would click right here. And you know what, let's call it Gentec-EO. So now the file name is selected. It's going to be this one. You can select to have the timestamp of the measurements in your file. Now the next step you want to do is to select the rate at which the data is going to be saved. So how many points per second, how many measurements per second are going to be taken. And you can actually go even for a longer period of time. So for example, if you want one measure for over every minute or so, this is something you can do also. Now the max value for thermal power detectors is 6. So you can get 6 measurements per second. This is the quickest it can go. So you know what, I'm going to keep it at 6 per second, as you can see. Now this is the how long the acquisition should go for. As you can see, it can be quite long. It can be a few days if you want. But I don't want this video to be a few days, so you could change it for, let's say, 5 seconds. Very quick acquisition. So that's it. Now the settings are chosen for the acquisition. And to start the acquisition itself, you can press that button right here, Start Acquisition. So let's do it. And it's just 5 seconds, so it's pretty quick. It's completed successfully, thank you. And when the acquisition is over, this is how the file looks like. This is a CSV file, so all the data is in the first column. So sometimes, well, what you got to do pretty much all the time, and this is a very recurring question, you need to split the data, tabulate the data, I think it's called. So you can, this is a French version of Excel, I'm sorry, but you would click right here, and then this is data, and then there's convert. You can convert the data, and just press next to each menu, and as you can see now, the data is correctly separated. So we got the index, we got the date, we got the time, and we got the measurement. This is the measurement in watts, so that's why it looks like this. Alright guys, so now what I want to show you is the trigger level, which is the one I skipped. Now I have an energy detector plugged in, okay? As you can see, it's a QE65 whatever. And you see now trigger level is no longer grayed out. But what you need to know, trigger level, it's basically, it means that as long as the measurement is not higher than the percentage that you see right here of the current scale, as long as it's not higher than 2% of the current scale, it will not count as a measurement. So what this all means is that the trigger level helps block the noise. If the trigger level is too low, it's going to trigger on the noise all the time, so you won't be able to distinguish what is the actual measurement versus just noise. Noise is not a measurement, of course. So 2% by default should be pretty good to cut all the noise. So let me show you what happens if I change it to 0.1, just like that. You see now it triggers on random noise, which is not good, of course. So it means that you know, in certain cases where you want to measure extremely low energy versus the current scale, you might have to change the trigger level to a lower value, but you got to be careful because if it's too low, now you're going to trigger on noise. So you know what? Let's put it back to 2%. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it for PC-Gentec-EO. So if you have any questions, you can always contact us, of course. Thank you very much and see you soon.